All right, ready, boys?
Yeah.
All right, we'll give you a countdown. 3, 2. Episode 3, 2024 season. The reaction committee. What's going on, fellas? How we doing?
Doing great. Early National Signing Day today too.
I didn't get the beanie memo.
Big day.
You missed the beanie memo, but you got the cold weather sweater memo. So
yes,
we're all rocking.
it's getting a little more chilly. Yeah, it is down here in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, we all got some winter gear.
Yes.
And so it still fits.
The song Dak's been singing. What's that song called? Is it called When Darkness
It's
Turns
called
to Light?
It's called It Ends Tonight.
It Ends Tonight, yes.
By All American Read. It's When Darkness Turns to Light.
Yep. That's like what the weather is right now, is that song. That's what we were just saying.
Driving in the dark,
cold, rainy, yeah.
It suits.
Yeah, we're getting to that point, but you know what that means, fellas? It means championship weekend is here. We got some stuff to go over. The meat and potatoes, if you ask me. We're getting to the nitty-gritty of, one more week away from really seeing what the bracket's going to be. There's only a few teams alive, and we'll get right to it. Why not? Let's just get right to it. We got some stuff to talk about. That Michigan game and that Syracuse game. Stu, I will let you take over when we get to that, but we'll get to the rankings first.
This was kind of the weekend of Stu, I would say. It was Stu's weekend.
It was a Stu weekend. I agree.
Huge weekend for me. So Syracuse, just to update everyone, they did not finish third in the ACC. Me and Dak, we've talked about potentially putting together a little double or nothing for bowl season.
Wow.
If Michigan ends up playing LSU, could be a great opportunity for that with that game. But yeah, Wolverines also got a win. That was big for all of us in some sense. Dak is now primarily LSU fan, but I think the kid in you, Dak, was still happy to see Michigan.
Well, Ohio State is still maybe my least favorite team in all of college football. Like I hate Ohio State and I hate Ryan Day. And so I feel like most people, unless you grew up in the state of Ohio or you're an Ohio State fan, you went there, most people were fairly happy to see what happened on Saturday. Stu, I have
Brandon Walker, not from Ohio, but he was very unhappy with the result on Saturday.
Yeah, he called it the worst loss ever. I was thinking about the Syracuse bet thing. I think we should maybe make it like a TRC content opportunity where if it is LSU versus Michigan, we could maybe do something with that. Or we talked about doing a double or nothing for Syracuse, but maybe we don't do the money. We can think of some other punishment, like a beer mile or something like that. That could be a good idea.
I could do the March Madness thing we did, punishment, that we never even figured out who won or lost.
What was it?
Watch Taylor Swift Era's documentary and then post a 2-minute long review of it.
Yeah. Punishment in anything we're involved in. We have some friends who watch the show, listen to it. Fantasy football, I don't think anyone's ever completed their punishment. We haven't even completed our punishment for the Dodgers winning the World Series, Dak, to be fair. I'm a part of this. So, I don't know if the Taylor Swift one, although you brought it up, I don't know if we're going to be watching that anytime soon.
You guys won't. I was saying potentially I will, though, for me and Dak.
Well, it's funny enough, too, because my LSU buddies actually brought up a Lions punishment I didn't do in college, too. So I make a lot of bets that I maybe don't always. But fantasy, I've never lost, so that one's not on me.
I haven't lost either.
Yeah.
I technically have not lost, but I was supposed to do a punishment with the person who did lose, but it was on them to really go for it and do it.
Didn't you tie for last with Yells?
How did that go about? I think I was out of that league for 1 year randomly.
We both played in the last place.
This was Gavin Yelsma, correct?
I think so.
We played in the last place game, and it was gonna be whoever won that it was the two people that ended in the last place. Basically, we're gonna do it. So because we thought the pure bar punishment was too difficult to do, not too difficult, but just
last. But that was already said. Whatever. It is what it is. water under the bridge, I would say. You know what I mean? I think it's all good.
Yeah, and I'll just throw this out there too. If Yeltsma does come to me or reach out to me at any point and say, "Hey, like when we're back home for Christmas or Thanksgiving, I'm gonna go to Pier Bar and do it," I will do it. I will do it with him. Yeah.
I'm gonna clip this and I'll send it in the chat. We'll see what he says.
You can, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I
like it.
Maybe it'll all come because I know Sabo for sure owes us one. I hate to say it. Our good friend Gashi definitely owes us one.
Yeah, Gashi does.
You know, all right. We'll get into the rankings here. Memphis, out of the mighty American, took down Tulane, the Green Wave. They bounced to 25. Army with one loss, being to Notre Dame at 24. Colorado, despite winning their game, they did not get into the Big 12 championship. They're there. Shout out Syracuse Stewart. I'll give you your flowers here. 9-3. You said their schedule was extremely favorable. And Kyle McCord, we'll get into him later. He could be talked about more later, but ended with the most college, regular season wise, the most yards in college football. I think that needs to be shouted out. So your guy Kyle McCord, that's good stuff. We'll get into him more later, I'm sure. Illinois actually ended, I believe, 9-3. Pretty solid year for the Fighting Illini. Now UNLV remains alive. Here's the first team that actually can get in. UNLV will be going up to Boise State, play on the blue turf. I think they call it Albertsons Field now. And if they win, they're probably in, fellas. They're probably going to be the 12th seed, but that's a real possibility. If they were to beat Boise State, they could be in as the 5th champion, because the champion of the American would be Army. I think it has to play right there. Memphis, I don't know if they would get in with that. I think they'd give it to number 20 UNLV.
Especially if they beat Boise.
Right.
It would for sure be. Yeah.
Boise's only lost to number 1 Oregon by 3 on the road. That's a good win.
There's some rumors too that just like I was going to say, when Michigan firing their offensive coordinator the other day, there's been some rumors that they could be going after UNLV's coordinator. Apparently,
I don't know if this is exactly
a very good job.
I know on the offensive side of the ball, I don't know if he is the OC. I'll do my research. I believe he comes from Texas, actually. I think he's a Longhorn guy. I think he's from that neck of the woods. I'll dig into that a little more.
I do have to ask something real quick. I imagine my brother sent it in as a joke, but I just got to confirm it's not going around Michigan Twitter or something. He sent last night because Michigan fired their OC yesterday, and he's like, "Man, it's going to be glorious next year, boys, when we got Bryce under center and Lane Kiffin OC." And I replied, I said, "You're smoking glue." Yeah. I said, "You're smoking glue." I imagine it was just a pure joke, but I just got to confirm it hasn't been going around for some reason.
No, I have not seen that.
Okay.
God help anyone who's
shout out Steven though. Lane Kiffin going to Michigan OC.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it'd be awesome. It would be great. It's not going to happen though. It would never happen.
No, that doesn't make sense. Sorry, Steven. Missouri. I don't want to say a word about it.
Nothing.
Why are they there? All right.
Go past it.
Right.
Can't
BYU 10-2 doesn't get into the Big 12 championship. Clemson in the ACC championship. Another team alive. Here's their second team that actually remains alive. And they are playing the mighty ponies of SMU, who I've been pounding the table for all year. And we'll get into this. This is where I've had some controversy on air with my co-host, Aaron Hogan, who believes SMU's in regardless of the outcome of that game, referring to if they were to lose that game to Clemson. I don't agree, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So they're going to play in Charlotte against SMU, who I believe is 8. I can't tell. Stu, you got I don't know if you can full screen it or we'll get to different thing there. I think that's 8.
Yeah. I can scroll up.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Iowa State 16 is playing for the Big 12 championship at Jerry World against number 15 Arizona State. Winner that's in. Winner that's plain and simple is going to be in. Whether they're the 12 seed, that's probably what it looks like right now. Unless Boise State kind of drops the ball on this one, I think they're going to be the 12 seed. And so Arizona State, every conference, every major 4 conference has a new representative in their conference championship worth note. South Carolina, I think they did them a little dirty, but they're sticking to their ground here, fellas. I want a little input. South Carolina, although they did lose head on, which makes sense, to Alabama and Ole Miss, the way they ended the year, the win streak, the fashion they were winning these games in, this team, if they were to beat your the tie LSU, they did get smoked by Ole Miss.
Wait. What were you gonna say? My Bengals?
Your Bengal Tigers. Well, that's what they call them.
Bengal Tiger. I know.
All right.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah. Okay, man.
You always say you're Bengal, and that's like usually what you say, like, oh, you're Bengals.
Your Bengal Tiger. Bayou Bengals. That's what I was going
Bayou
for.
Bengals. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. All
right. Yeah.
It's on the mind. You're 4-8 Bengals. We're not talking about the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina, though, fellas, really, they ended the year the strongest, I'd say, out of really any team that's kind of in the mix of trying to get in. Sellers, unreal. This team balled out at the end of the year. They beat Clemson on the road. I thought they maybe put them ahead of Ole Miss, but again, they lost to them head on. I get why they do that. What do you guys think?
So I think, and that's somebody that I was rooting for the last few weeks. I was rooting for South Carolina to get in and looking for a path for them to get in. Because like you said, they've been playing the best ball down the stretch. I don't know what they started. They probably started like 4-3, right? Like they got
losses. They lost to Kentucky.
They lost to Kentucky week 2, I think. And then LSU, I think, was week 3. And that's when they lost
they beat Kentucky, didn't they? Yeah, they beat Kentucky. I'm sorry. They beat Kentucky.
No. Oh, did they?
Kentucky's only group of 4 win
was Ole Miss.
Was Ole Miss. That's the only win they had that wasn't that was a legitimately Power 4 win.
I think they barely beat Kentucky. I think it was it was like 20-10 or something. Regardless, South Carolina has been playing the best ball, but what has obviously killed them is they lost to Ole Miss and they lost to Alabama. I think the big switch up I would like to see would be
lost to LSU too.
And they lost to LSU, of course, but we're not up there. I'm talking about just the teams ahead of them.
Yeah,
the biggest switch up
against Kentucky, they smoked them.
Yeah, they smoked Kentucky. I think it was like tied at half week 2, and then but regardless, I think the biggest switch up that I would want to see is I have not seen anything from Miami except Cam Ward has looked good, and Lenore Sellers has looked down the stretch just as good as any quarterback in the country. Truthfully. Like statistically and with the eye test, that was a huge win for them against Clemson because they were they couldn't get the ball moving most of that game, and they had a great fourth quarter, and so I was hoping they would somehow be able to sneak in, but I mean they have 2 super key losses, and I think their best win probably is Clemson, which is not a great win. Where Ole Miss and Bama, not only have they beaten South Carolina, both of those teams have beaten Georgia, which are 2 marquee victories. And so it was always going to be tough for them. I would have liked to have seen them now, because if you did the thing where it's like, who is playing the best ball right now, there's a good chance they are, a top 6 team in the country based on what this top 12 is. But that's not how they do it. They do full body of work and what your overall record is. And so if they did it by who's playing the best right now, they'd for sure be in the top 12.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with them, it's the thing is, and to quote Aaron Hogan from who I'm on air with, they got cock blocked by the teams they lost. I mean, they did. You know what I mean? Pun fully intended. They did. I mean, that's their fault, though. They could have won that game at Tuscaloosa, but the fashion they lost the one to Ole Miss, too, it's like, even though I don't think Ole Miss, the way that they had that Kentucky loss is the worst loss of that group, this group here, even throwing in Miami. Right, that's got Georgia Tech, who almost beat Georgia. We'll get into that one a little bit later. Haynes King, that would be honorary Noah's Dawg. I know it's Dak's dog segment.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Dog. I mean, that man put it out, his heart and soul out there. That 8 overtime game.
Dude, I saw a picture of Haynes King and Carson Beck, and it was like something about like why the
meth bowl.
The meth bowl, bro.
Okay, hey, we gotta find the picture because it's both of them at the post game press conference, and they both look like guys who have done meth for the last 5 years.
Yeah,
bro, they both look like they could like play a role as what's his name, Jesse in Breaking Bad.
In Breaking Bad, yeah.
Yeah, they both could play him. I feel like.
Man, off
especially Haynes King.
Yeah.
So South Carolina, it doesn't shock me they put them that far back, but that was kind of one of those teams, just the fact, recency bias. They really are playing great football, like you said, Dak. Ole Miss, they won the Egg Bowl, but that's it. I mean, you can't lose Kentucky. You can't lose to Florida. They shot themselves in the foot. Same with Miami. I mean, if Miami beats Kyle McCord, Stu's boy, up in the Carrier Dome or whatever it's called now, they're in. I mean, the brand's in, because we're going to get into this. I think there's some brand bias, obviously, to an extent, even though the committee won't say that. But, they would want them in. That's a sexy brand to have in. And, a guy like Cam Ward. But that defense is trash, plain and simple.
Oh, yeah. And you you brought up a good point there. Alabama, Miami, and Ole Miss, they were all given a stretch of games down the stretch where they could make it so like you're not 9-3, you're 10-2. So like easy game. Like Alabama got to play Oklahoma. Right. Alabama got to play Vanderbilt. They had this stretch of games where it's like you don't even have to put yourself in a position for the committee to question it. Alabama, Ole Miss, Miami all had those games. They all lost those games because they were sleepwalking through them, and that's all there is to it. That's the one argument you could make for South Carolina, where they played LSU early on when LSU was playing all right, which was a tough game and not a gimme game. They did get smoked by Ole Miss. They barely lost to Alabama. The games that they had to play to try to get themselves in the playoff conversation when they went to play Texas A&M, they played A&M at home. They had to play a ranked Mizzou team, even though none of us think they're any good. And they had to play a ranked Clemson team. They went in and actually took care of business all those games. Where if you look at 13, 12, 11, all of those teams are limping into the playoffs and had the chance to take care of business, and they didn't do it. And so I think that's the biggest argument you can make for South Carolina. But if they had an A on their helmet, maybe.
Let's get to the number and the A on the helmet, right?
Let's do it. Yeah.
This is I foresaw that's the word I think for that. This one happening because I did not think that. Now, is it possible they could not make it? Sure. They could do what the way that would happen is SMU were to lose, and hypothetically, it's got to be close, right, fellas? I mean, they got to lose probably by a field goal. Thank you, Stu. Or a touchdown at worst. For I think they're safe. If they lose by 2 touchdowns, which I don't anticipate them losing by 2 touchdowns, I don't think Clemson's great. The committee could bump them out because of their strength of schedule is not good. What's their best win? And you can debate. You could say Louisville. Louisville's not ranked.
Louisville. So that's the thing. SMU is one of. There's like 8 teams right now who they don't have a win versus a current top 25 team.
Well, and that's the thing here. And I you bring up Mizzou, and it made me start thinking about this. I think what the committee is doing, putting on the tinfoil hat a little bit.
Yeah.
They bounce out an 8-4 Louisville. Sure. They didn't have to, they're a borderline ranked team at that point. Most teams that are ranked are 9-3 and worse, right? I don't think there's an 8-win team, but they're borderline ranked, right? And they had to play some good teams. They had to play Miami, blah, 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 whatever. I think they had to play also Clemson. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to double check that. But I think Mizzou sits there so high because why are they that high? I think they went 9-3. I'm pretty sure. I can double check that, but
they did.
They went 9-3, but they lost to Alabama by like 30 something, 34, and didn't score a point. And
they got destroyed by Texas A&M and destroyed by Alabama.
And what I think they're doing with this is they're elevating that win for the old Crimson Tide to look even sexier. Well, they have this many ranked wins, and this. Why does Mizzou at 9-3? I get they're 9-3 in the SEC, but look at their wins. I mean, they got destroyed, like you said, by Texas A&M. Even being that high is questionable to me. And so Alabama, I get their resume, boys, and I want to hear your guys' opinion about Alabama specifically. Yeah. You got to throw somebody in here. I was talking to Dak about this, Stu, earlier today. I think this should be a different format completely because we look at this and see a 3-seed SMU, no discredit, they played great, and Boise State being the 4. Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because look at the 5-seed here, hypothetically. Penn State has a walkthrough to the walkthrough. They're going to be favored in both games by a lot too. Like they're going to be at least a touchdown, at least against Boise State, and at least a touchdown if they get that game at home for against Arizona State. So I
do think Penn State would lose one of those games just because they're Penn State. I think they would choke, but I get what you're saying. Like they have the easiest path,
right?
Yeah, they have the easiest path for sure.
Standpoint. Right, exactly. All right, Notre Dame's thrown in there because let's say Penn State loses to Oregon, they put them down to 6, and Notre Dame throws in at 5 because they're not in the conference and they can't do anything. Okay, fine, right? And the committee says we won't fault teams for being in a conference championship. We'll see, because I think Notre Dame's going to end up at that 5 because I don't think Penn State wins. Then they're going to win both those games. Plain and simple. I'm sorry, they will.
Dude, the way that this format is set up too, Notre Dame's just gonna be in the playoff every season, pretty much, as long as they'll be able to lose one game and they'll be in. If they play a super tough schedule, they could probably
only set for 2 years.
Dude,
so there's only one more year that's guaranteed. And I think
I brought this up. I think it was episode 1 that we did, and that's when I brought it up. It might have even been the last episode that we did it. And this was when there wasn't as many 3-loss teams, there weren't as many 2-loss teams either. So it didn't look like it was necessarily going to play out like this. But I was like, when they switched the college football playoff format to how it is right now, it was always the worst case scenario was Notre Dame consistently being at the 5 seed. And that's why they have no interest in joining a conference, because they don't care about the bye. They'll take a home playoff game against the 12 seed, and then you go play a neutral site game against the worst conference champion, arguably, and you can do that time and time again because you're Notre Dame, and you're going to be 11-1 because you set your own schedule with whoever you want every single year.
And they're the only independent team that's like a big brand, and so it's like, no shit, you're going to make it in if you only have 1 or 2 losses. Like, it literally is the built-in Notre Dame spot, 5 or 6.
And it's different for Penn State, obviously, but and I know we harp on Penn State all the time, but I also said I'm sick of James Franklin trots out the exact same team with what feels like the exact same quarterback every single year, and there's absolutely no consequence for it because they consistently don't have to play a super tough schedule. They usually play max 2 tough Big Ten teams a year, and maybe a third one that's borderline ranked, like an Illinois. And in a year like this, they really only played 1 tough game against Ohio State. They usually don't win those games, but that's an easy 10-2 for them, and they're going to be sitting pretty every single year like they are now.
Right.
Which is another problem as well.
I hope and pray that Penn State gets that switched up where they lose and they get the 6th spot for their sake and have to play Alabama if that's the case, because I don't even know if they'd win that night game. Penn State, Happy Valley, even all the business. I'd take Bama. Like they are not the 3rd best team in the country. I don't mean to harp on them. They're not. Notre Dame, I know they lost to Northern Illinois. That team's taking care of business. And I know they haven't played an amazing competition, but still, that A&M win first on the road, it's a pretty tough place to play. I have more trust in them.
I think they should be ahead of Penn State for sure.
I do too. But when you look at it, well, they're 1 loss to Ohio State, whatever. We don't need to dig too deep. I think we all stand on the same side.
Dude, actually, I don't know, actually. This is so bad. I bet as we've been going through this, I've been pulling up some of the schedules. Because obviously when you go week by week, you know who plays a good game or a big game, who doesn't. Notre Dame's schedule is so soft. It's so soft.
No, it is. I mean, they
oh my God,
dude. Florida State this year. USC going on the road's not a big win.
No. Their biggest win is probably Louisville was 15 at the time, but Louisville's unranked now. Their biggest win now is probably Army.
Yeah,
that's their biggest win.
So I have a crazy question to pose.
Because A&M's not ranked anymore, right?
And it's Penn State related.
This is dude,
if Michigan played Penn State this past weekend instead of Ohio State, do you think Michigan would also beat Penn State? I personally think yes, and the only reason why is because the way Ohio State was going to beat us and they should have beat us was by using their guys on the outside. Penn State, are they more talented than Michigan on the outside? Probably. And do they have a more competent quarterback? Probably. But I feel like James Franklin would have tried the same game plan. I feel like he also would have just been trying to run the ball up the middle all game. Like that's the way they've tried to play us in the past.
I think maybe, and I don't know. I think maybe Michigan would have had a little bit more of a let's just go into next season sort of mindset. Not for sure. But it's not nearly as big as
it's not the game.
It's so different.
It's not the game. Yeah. But I think they're still. It doesn't mean the same thing, but I think they're still getting up for that. Like if they're getting up for it, probably slightly less than MSU. You know what I mean?
But what I would say to this, Stu, like Ohio State undoubtedly has more of a talented team. They should not have lost to Michigan. The only way they'd win
blasphemy, dude,
was 13-10. That's the only way they could have won, and they did. I think Ryan Day is so mentally not tough. And I don't like James Franklin by any means, but at least he somewhat earned that job at Vanderbilt. This guy didn't earn shit. This guy got the keys passed off to him, and for his own pride's sake, because the thing about this rivalry is,
and I agree with that. I just think James Franklin also is the type to be like, oh yeah, we're tough. We're gonna run for 200 on them on their down year. I feel like he would have kind of that same mentality.
Maybe, but I just don't think he would. I don't know, man.
I think I see.
I know what you're saying too. It's not a ludicrous take by any means, but it just does. I don't think it means as much. There's the pressure that's been on Ryan Day in Ohio State.
I mainly just say it because Penn State shouldn't be 5. Like that's the main reason. I
agree.
Ohio State, all these guys came back for this, right? Like Penn State, these guys didn't come back. They knew Michigan wasn't on the schedule, but they didn't come back. Oh, we got to come back and beat Michigan. There's Ohio State fans that I have in my life that are like, fuck this. I don't even want like the playoffs. We're not winning a championship. Yeah. The season's over. You know what I mean? Like this is.
I saw Ohio State fans saying they should just opt out.
Yeah. Well, it's even like even if Ohio State does win the Natty, this is the toughest thing about it for them. What's the only thing that could spoil a Natty for them, even if they won it? It's if
they
Michigan
winning a Natty, and if they do enjoy it, because that's
well, enjoy it, but it's also like how much pride can you take in that if you're an Ohio State fan on Twitter and like you're trying to celebrate your Natty and you have every Michigan fan saying, yeah, well, we still beat you the year you won.
Yeah, but it's still Natty. I mean, you gotta give them credit.
And that's what. So
it is still a Natty.
That's
it's just
where
not as good.
Tainted, yes, but it's still Natty.
That's where I think I disagree a little bit. And
worst type of Natty you could win. Obviously, the Natty's great, but it's probably the worst type of Natty.
The volumes of this kind of rivalry, Stu, that I'm saying with the Penn State thing, it kind of throw it out to the side because it's like Penn State's got more talented roster. That's how much this rivalry means. Is what I'm getting to with this. Like,
no, that's fair. Yeah,
they still went 10-2. It's still all in front of them. They're gonna get a home playoff game regardless.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I say. Go ahead.
And so like the reason I think like Ohio State almost wouldn't want to win a Natty this year isn't because it's really that tainted. Honestly, I think a national championship is the only thing that you can do to avenge this Michigan loss. Obviously, the only thing. Obviously, you're going to play Michigan again next year, but then
you could lose to Purdue, and as long as
I know. But Michigan fans
like still a better Natty. You know
they will continue to come back, even if they were to beat them next year. It's like, well, we beat you the last 4. Even if you beat them the year following, it's like, well, we still beat you 4 out of 6. The only way to truly avenge it is if you win a national championship. And I think that's still like, yes, you could say it's tainted.
That's the last laugh, right?
Like, that's the last laugh, and it's still. Yeah, Michigan fans, they get the opportunity to be like, well, we still beat you, which is great for them. Ohio State fans will still enjoy it. Why I think if I'm an Ohio State fan, I wouldn't even want to win a Natty is because that guarantees Ryan Day comes back.
Sure.
And I would not want him back because it's going to be the same story next year. No. And so I think the worst situation is you go to a Natty and you lose a Natty. And because then I think Ryan Day comes back in that situation.
I don't know.
If you go and you lose. Really?
I think it's Natty or bust. 100%.
Okay, that's fair.
I think it is too. It's like, look at their new athletic director. Bro, their new athletic director is literally the one that was just at A&M that just forced Jimbo out, bro.
That's fair. That's fair.
If they don't win it, he's gone.
What do they owe Ryan Day? Nothing. And Urban Meyer apparently
37 mil, but they don't give a shit about that.
Whatever.
They just spent 20 mil on a roster. Yeah.
Who cares? Yes.
Yeah.
Who cares?
I see what you're saying, Dak, but dude, like if they go to the championship and lose, ultimate you can't do it even when you got that far in, right? Like,
it's another big game. Yeah.
So under the lights, Ryan Day, unless he wins a Natty, I would be, and you can clip this, whatever. Unless he wins a Natty, he is not the head coach of Ohio State next year. And he shouldn't be.
So that was the first game.
And he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be.
That was the first game Ryan Day has ever lost to. This is how you know it's mental. What's going on with him in Michigan is because that was the first game Ryan Day has ever lost to a team that wasn't ranked in the top 25.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Like they have all the talent. There's no identity in that team other than their 5 stars. That's it. Like that team has all the talent in the world. That team before this game happened was odds favorite to win the Natty over Oregon, who they lost to, over Texas, over all of them, over Georgia. I know they had 2 losses already before they went into, 8 overtimes with Georgia Tech. Ohio State has the roster to do it. Even you can blame all you want, but to your credit, Stu, obviously Kyle McCord wasn't the issue. That's all it's coming down to. Will Howard is not good by any means. but still, that roster, their game plan, that was majority coaching. And
I get the other thing too. I get with Will Howard is like I saw some Ohio State fans on Twitter talking about this. They were saying like, dude, McCord was always the better passer. Will Howard was supposed to come in and be able to run the rock. He didn't even really do that.
And when he did, he got folded by Page. And we're more physical than you. That's what Michigan played. Ball was in their court. All the pressure was on Ohio State at their crib to perform, and they folded. Folded.
Well, and I think you brought it up, Kreitz. So, like, obviously, Kyle McCord wasn't the problem. But when you looked at Kyle McCord, it was like, why do we not have a CJ Stroud? Why do we not have a Jay Fields? Or like what Bama's had, why didn't we not have Bryce Young, Tua, etc.? Like, you should have the cream of the crop elite quarterback. Will Howard was never going to be that.
They always have the receivers.
Exactly. Will Howard was never going to be that, but they thought it was a slight step up. It was not Kyle McCord's fault. It's not Will Howard's fault. No. Even if when they did have a CJ Stroud at home in Columbus, I think it was 2 years ago. He had that pass deep down the sideline to Marvin Harrison Jr., and that was for them to take the lead. I think that's probably the last time they took the lead, and that was going into the half. And then from that second half on, they just tried to run the ball up the middle the entire time. So it doesn't even matter who you have at quarterback, because if you're not willing to throw the football and spread it out, if you're going to try to be like, we're going to meet Michigan at their game, because that's more of a statement for you than just winning the football game, it doesn't matter who you have under center. And that's what they tried to do, because Michigan made a big thing how they're more physical, how they can run the football, and Ohio State, who they're not built like that. Like, they've won national championships doing it other ways. And Urban Meyer built a different team with a spread offense. But they wanted to prove to people
Urban Meyer, they were a spread team. With Urban Meyer, I feel like they were a spread team, but they still had some dogs on the O line.
Yeah, they could, but they could throw all day. Like
they could throw all day, and then what they would do is they would hand it off to Travion Henderson and J.K.
Yeah, like
Dobbins
they had Zeke, and Zeke. I guess not Zeke could do whatever he wants.
Zeke and J.K. Dobbins, and I think
they had guys everywhere. Yeah,
at least from what I heard, it sounded like Cam Ward was who Ohio State was originally trying to target in the transfer portal, and then they found out Keyshawn Judkins wanted to transfer. And so they spent a little bit less money on a QB so they could get Keyshawn and get a good QB, and which ended up being Will Howard. I mean, I'm not saying Cam Ward would have changed the game, but I don't think Will Howard was your guy, dog. And like Cam Ward, I think probably would have put you in a little bit of a better position to win.
No, for sure. He would have. I'll step in. I'll say it. He would have, because I think what happened was mentally, and they probably thought, Stu, you're probably onto something there with, we can get Judkins. We already got Henderson. We could have the best running back duo, because that's what Michigan beat us with, was running back duos of, obviously go back to Haskins, and then you go to Corum when he was healthy, and then you go to the Don. He performed in these games, like seriously. And then he said, well, we can do that, and we have a good enough quarterback to do it with Will Howard. Sure. My question is, what happened at halftime when it was 10-10? Ohio State's getting the rock, and obviously Will Howard already threw a pick at that point, looking a little shaky. Did they just say, hey, okay, we got to just rely on the run game because we don't trust Will Howard? Or did they want to just keep to their philosophy of, they can't score and we're just going to run it down their throat? Either way, it's ridiculous that they lost that game. Michigan was 7-5, and that's how good the team was. Plain and simple. Like just weren't. They weren't good this year on offense. They can't score. They already fired their OC. Their defense stepped up, and they played right into their hand. Credit to Wink Martindale and that defense. But they played right into the hand. No.
And dude, I honestly think at least like with Ohio State, I kind of think on the sidelines they were just waiting for something to flip. Kind of how it happened against Indiana. Indiana opened up the game. They had an awesome first drive. Ohio State couldn't really do a whole lot at offense. It was supposed to go into the half 7-7. They had like the blocked punt. They scored a touchdown, 14-7 going into the half. And then everything kind of opened up. I think they were kind of just waiting for a play that opened the floodgates and would finally put Michigan on their heels.
Proud, everything.
And when they had to wait, that third quarter went by like nothing.
Right.
The second half went by like nothing. And so they kept waiting for that big play where things would finally open up. And when it didn't, that's when Ohio State started to shrink a little bit.
Right.
And I think that's when they started to get a little bit nervous. And from that point on, it was over. and they weren't going to win that game.
No explosive. That's
It's
probably
all
the
on
first.
Ryan Day. It's on Ryan Day through and through.
I know that Michigan has won the last 3 games before this one, but that was probably the first Ohio State-Michigan game I've seen in my lifetime where Ohio State did not hit an explosive play that was like 40-plus yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they didn't do much. Like, I don't even know what their longest play was. Probably under 30 yards, Stu. I mean, they probably had like a couple low 20s passes.
Yeah, they had some, they definitely gouged us with a few passes for sure.
Why
but
they didn't keep trying that is beyond. I think it was a trust thing. I really think they're just like, you know what? We don't trust this kid enough to throw the ball more, even though our receivers are that good. They don't have Will Johnson in.
That's the crazy
wanted
part.
to go at Kenneth Grant and Stewart and Mason Graham makes no beyond my imagination. Those 2 guys, Grant and Graham, are going to be first rounders.
Yeah.
And their O-line.
And Stewart's been a beast.
Your center just went out for the whole year.
Stu's underrated, bro.
Stu's underrated. Your center's out. Your O-line is the one area you go, and obviously their kicker, where you go, a little shaky. I don't know if that'd be the one area. And then the Michigan's one spot they've been good all year, other than Texas, that they got dominated against Texas, was the D-line. I mean, it's pretty obvious. That's laughable. I still think I do think that is one of the worst losses of all time. Mentally, I mean, it's like, not just as a Michigan fan. I mean, this is nationwide. How do you lose that game?
Given all the context, all the context, it's the worst loss, bro.
It is one of the worst losses that we've seen in our lifetime, for sure.
It was total crumble moment.
I truly could not believe we won after that game happened.
Yeah. Hey, let's pause real quick, Stu. I'm just gonna get a drink.
All right, word.
That's a good place to kind of cut. That's some good stuff.
All right.
Yeah, good stuff there, fellas. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I want to hear real quick. Ohio State has to. Dawg, get to the championship? I think Stu, you might be on the same page with me. Not to speak for you. I think they have to win the Natty. That's the only way Ryan Day comes back. What do you think?
Yeah, so I thought after they lost to Michigan, immediately my thought was the only way he saves his job is if he goes to a national championship. Like, he has to at least go, because his record is still crazy. Obviously, he's lost to Michigan 4 times in a row. If you go to a Natty, that gives you 3 playoff wins, right? That gives you 3 playoff wins. We just talked about it, and briefly, let's say the brackets stay the same. If he were to, let's say, destroy Tennessee, you go and you play Oregon neutral site, you win by a few scores, 2 to 3 scores, and then you go play like Boise, Penn State, Notre Dame semifinal, you destroy them, and then you go play whoever, will say Texas in the Natty, and you lose a close game. That is how he would keep his job, and that is the absolute worst situation for Ohio State, because your 2 biggest games, again, you're sitting there with a loss, similar to when they played Georgia in the semifinals. When they lost to Michigan, had a chance to redeem themselves, lost close to Georgia. It's pain all around, and you have no choice but to keep Ryan Day. And so I think that's how he maybe sticks around.
Stu, I got comments. I'll let you say what you want, though.
I mean, I think he has to win it to stay. I think that's the only way he keeps his job. Like, literally, I think the athletic director already in his head has that, like, decided.
You can't come back with him unless they win the Natty. Even in that fashion, Dak, again, it's really specific. The reason this man has a job is a guy by the name of James Franklin. That is why he has a job. It's because he beats Penn State. He can't even beat Michigan. He doesn't win Big Ten championships. He's not even in one.
Didn't even beat Oregon.
Unless he wins a Natty, he's gone. And for Ohio State fans, we got Ohio State people in our life, some listeners even, for their sake even. I know they all want him gone. That's the only way you redeem it.
Well, and like the other thing that everybody talks about, born on third base, I'm sure every single Ohio State fan out there is sitting there thinking, if they had Urban Meyer these last 5 years, there's a very good chance with those CJ Stroud teams, they probably would have picked up one more national championship. There's a very, very good chance.
Oh, God.
They could have. Those rosters were insane. And
they would have picked up a championship with Ryan Day if they didn't shank that field goal. They're beating TCU.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly.
And the one thing I want to say is I don't even want to hear the whole. There are a few people out there that are like, "Oh, well, who else would we get? Like, if we fire Ryan,
you get
Day.
Urban Meyer."
Anybody.
And it's like
sometimes to go forward, you got to go back.
Even if you don't get Urban Meyer, it's like, bro, get anyone else. This guy's had 4 cracks at it. He's not winning natties. That's all that matters. Beating Michigan or winning natties. When it's this rivalry, it's like you have to do one of those things for it to be like really okay. That was an A+ season. You know what I mean?
I'm fairly confident my grandmother with this Ohio State roster could go 10-2 in this Big Ten.
Oh yeah,
I think she could do it.
Yeah,
with a loss to Michigan, I think she could do it. Truthfully,
with
some coordinators. Yeah,
I do too.
So he's got to go. But we're all in agreement. If he loses first round or second round, he's fired on the field.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think he should be fired on the field. I think he should be not have a job today. Like seriously, I that's a fireball.
Yeah, I mean, it's the worst loss ever. It is.
It's a fireball offense. But they spent too much money. I mean, that's on them. So we'll move on. Conference championships, boys. Spreads are all pretty close. I'll have to check, but I have an idea what they are. We'll start off with what we see here. We talked a little bit about Mountain West. Mountain West Friday night, they're playing UNLV. Boise State, I believe, is they're actually probably the highest spread. I'd assume at this point close to a touchdown. I think Boise State does it, and I'm happy for them. Cool to see Ashton Genty do it. They get to take advantage of this kind of weird, wacky format, and I hope they get the 4 seed. Seriously,
I agree, and I think it's cool that UNLV's got a shot even to like get in this thing. That is cool. There's some stipulations there. Boise State, they'll probably win, but cool game nonetheless. Cool game.
Then we go down to SEC championship. We'll just move to that. Texas playing Georgia again. 2.5, 3-point spread. I think it was 3.5 at one point. We'll just say 3 for the sake of it. For the Longhorns, rocking the icy white jerseys, fellas. They haven't lost in those since I believe it was actually the Washington game, but last year. But still, that's a little something that their only loss is to Georgia. Who do you like in that one, guys?
Oh man, that's tough. Just because they already played earlier in the year. Georgia obviously took care of business in Austin. That was the best that Georgia's looked probably the entire season. I'm going with Texas right now. Yeah. Texas is playing good ball. They kind of manhandled A&M in College Station. That's a huge game.
They didn't let up a touchdown other than throwing a pick six. Their defense is the best in the country.
17-7, that's just taking your opponent and you just fucking sit on them.
17-0 if they didn't throw a pick six.
And this Georgia team is just so shaky. They're very, very inconsistent. And it's all when you're a quarterback like Carson Beck, the one thing he can't afford to do, because you still have a great team around you, all you have to do is play A.J. McCarron football and don't make mistakes. There are some games he can't help it, and he tries to do too much. And he either gets stripped or he throws a couple of picks and it kills him. And I feel like he'll probably do that in this game. So I'm going Texas, and I'm taking them probably around 3 points. 3 points.
I'm also going to take Texas. I think they avenged the loss. I mean, I honestly think Texas is the better team. Georgia, obviously, they're Georgia, but I don't know. I think Quinn Ewers is just a lot better of a QB than Carson Beck is the QB I would take over. Like, if I had to choose one for Michigan, I would take Quinn Ewers all day. It wouldn't even be close for me. So I'm going to ride on that, and I'm going to say Texas avenges their loss.
I'm going Texas as well. I like what we saw. I think they got to start utilizing it more with that package of bring in Arch. Use him. Use his athleticism. He's first guy to score a touchdown in that game. He's fast, and he has an arm. Use him. You have him on your bench.
That was awesome.
Awesome package. Do it. Hook him horns. Hook him. I can't know if you said.
If you do it in the right way, you can have a little Tua Jalen Hurts magic. The last year that they played together.
This ain't orgy. This is a Manning.
No, yeah.
It's honestly, it's probably a better version, or it's definitely a better version of when Michigan went to the playoff the first year and they ran the JJ packages when he was
I would say it's a better version than Cade and JJ. Yeah,
for sure, a better version. For sure,
a better version. 25 or whatever he is. I don't know if you guys.
He re-entered. Good for him.
Honestly, he'll probably be playing at UNLV next year or something.
Yeah,
like
Reno
that.
Guy could be playing out for the Wolfpack. Yes. Okay. Real quick, we'll do ACC. Are you guys riding ponies or Dabo Sweeney with all of the drip? Dak, you just kind of ooze a little Dabo Sweeney. I think you're going to go that way.
I think that's because we were talking about this earlier, and I said part of me thinks, or part of me hopes that Clemson just goes to the playoffs because Dabo's actually been there, and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of. I'm not a Dabo guy. You both. Okay, yeah, sure. With all his drip.
I haven't called you a Dabo guy. I've never called you a Dabo guy.
I'm calling him a Dabo guy. I don't know why. I just feel it.
No, I know that's fair. I'm not a Dabo guy for sure. It's almost too funny at this point. He's a full blown meme. Where I'm now I'm not really that anti because it's too good. I am gonna take Clemson. Just
that's right.
Going Clemson.
I'll go SMU. Kreitz was on. I'll attest.
Yeah, Kreitz is gonna go SMU. You are an SMU guy. You have been from the start.
Kreitz has been on SMU. I remember he told me in like June. One night we were just up. It was late, and he was like, "Stu, they're gonna be really good this year. They probably could win the ACC." And here they are. There's a shot.
I thought they had a shot. I thought Florida State would be better. I didn't say they were going to win. I thought Miami, Florida State, got thrown Clemson in the mix, and I said SMU is the next team. I thought Preston Stone was the truth. It's not even Preston Stone. It's Rhett Lashley, their coach. He's a great coach. Their pockets are deep there in Dallas. They got a lot of money there at SMU.
That is an interesting one to keep an eye on because it's like
they're in the ACC. It's a cool place to play. Dallas,
they have that they bought themselves into the ACC and they bought themselves championships back before we were born, dude. They've done it before.
Original, the OGs of the pre-NIL era. That's why they got the death penalty. They're paying players.
Yes,
they're OGs.
and it was big with like the Dallas strip clubs and everything.
They were doing blow for sure.
They were doing blow.
A lot of blow. A lot of blow.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't Snow Mountain University the nickname for it?
Yeah, that's right, Stu. Look at you. You've been living down here for a little bit. Last but not least, our favorite guy, James Franklin, collectively, versus Dan Lanning. I got to give Dan Lanning a lot of credit. They can win a championship this year. I'd only say that about a couple teams. Oregon's pretty damn good, and I think they're going to mollywop. I think this is going to be at least a 10-point game. Give me Oregon. I'll take all the points.
I mean, yeah, look at their path right now, bro. Like, I think everyone expects them to beat Penn State. And yeah, like them making the playoff, just if it's anything close to how it's set up right now after next weekend, very easy path to the Natty. And honestly, like they're as good as any team up here, and they're number one and undefeated for a reason.
I'm going Oregon. I hope they wax Penn State by 30. That would be my dream scenario because we're all done with Penn State here. I'm done with Penn State. I think I was talking to you about it earlier, Kreitz. There should be something where if you're consistently a top 5 team in your conference, you have to consistently play the rest of the top 5 in your conference. You can't play the bottom feeders of your conference and skate by every year.
Right.
And somehow that happens to them all the time. And so I hope they win by 30. I am a little bit on the other side of the coin here where I do like Dan Lanning. They put together a hell of a football team. They beat Ohio State in a big game. That really is his only big win at Oregon, I would say. He lost a couple big games against Washington last year. He lost a couple the year, I think it was the year prior to Utah. He's been smoked by Georgia before.
Yep, you did.
Yeah.
Is this his third year?
Is this his third year?
Yes.
Yeah. It's his third year.
No, I know. And so it's not on him, but there have been matchups where when he goes up against a good head coach, like when they played Georgia, Kirby Smart, I know that was his first year. They have struggled before. And so I'd be curious to see who they play. I mean, if it plays out like this, you're not going to play anybody till the national championship. But there are maybe some other teams and coaches that I trust a little bit more.
We're going to get to Dak's Dawg, boys. I want to ask this, though, before it's all set in stone. And I asked it last time. I'm going to ask it again. How many of these teams can win the national title?
I think we've gone through it each time. And my number
I love asking it because who can't?
Yeah. No, I know.
Can I say mine? I want to say.
Yeah, say yours. Say yours. Go for it.
Oregon, Texas, Georgia. I don't think this Alabama team can do it, even if
I know that's the one that I'm out on now. Yeah,
3. I got 3.
I'm in agreement with those 3.
That's mine as well. I go. Oregon,
roster wise,
Texas,
Ohio State
Georgia.
Obviously technically could roster wise, but it's just like they don't have.
They don't.
I no longer
believe who they fight for. They don't believe in them.
No.
And it was after because I think the last time we did this question was before they had lost to Oklahoma, and
you were debating it.
I put Alabama in it.
No, I'll give you credit.
Who I left out, I've left them out each time was Ohio State. I left out Ohio State each time.
Yeah.
But Bama, could you guys rank them? I think the teams that I trust the most, I still go Georgia. I trust them the most. They've been here before, and Kirby Smart has been here before. So I trust them.
Yeah.
Oregon and Texas, I'm kind of back and forth. I think I go Texas 2, Oregon 3. I do.
Yeah, I would. I'd go with that. I agree. Texas is battle tested more.
I love battle tested.
Part of this roster, they've gone into Alabama last year. Most of those guys are back. They won that game. They've been to the playoffs. This Oregon team has not. I'm with you. Sark has at least had his foot in the water in here. You got to give it to Kirby. He's got 2 natties. I would go Texas and then Oregon 3. And honestly, that's it. That's what I'll leave it at. Ohio State roster-wise.
And I'll even say my list could narrow to 2. If Carson Beck looks just like how if he looks even similar to how he looked against Florida in the game against Texas and they lose to Texas, then I think they're off my list then. And I think it's pretty much just Oregon or Texas.
I love it.
Well, and I don't take Ohio State is for sure off the list, but and I think this is even more for what we were talking about earlier. That team, there's just no way that they're bought in anymore. So I know we talked about if they win a natty, Ryan Day could save his job. I think they're all like, this is over.
It's a joke. Yeah. It's a joke. All right, let's get to Dak's Dawg real quick. Hey, pause it real quick, Stu, if you don't mind, because
I got you.
Dak's Dawg. We alluded to it, I believe, Dak, but you break this one open for us.
This one's a really special one, and this one's special because of Stu. We talked about it in the beginning of the show with Syracuse. We had that whole Syracuse bet. It all started because Stu thought Kyle McCord was the truth. I didn't necessarily think Kyle McCord was the truth. We didn't plan this, but Kyle McCord actually got a lot of screen time here tonight. We've already chatted a lot of Kyle McCord.
I mean, I was gonna say, I feel like this whole season, out of all the teams we root for, I feel like Kyle McCord is the one we talk about the most. Is it because of me? Yeah.
Yes.
But
that's all there. Nothing else needs to be said.
You guys are in on the bit, though. You guys bringing them up.
So for context, I came home on, what was it? Was it Saturday? Yeah, Kreitz and I come home on Saturday, and we're talking Michigan, Ohio State, and of course, for no reason at all, Stu had to, loop in Kyle McCord. We had a whole back and forth on, was it Will Howard? Was it Kyle McCord? Eventually, it was said by yourself, Stu Bird, that you thought if Kyle McCord was on Ohio State this year, he would have beat Michigan. That's how far the love has gone.
I tracked that back though, because let me
track it back a little.
Let me clarify.
You did?
So I
asked him it off rip. I will say it was in the heat of battle.
I was gonna say
it was in the heat of battle.
I did not bring up Kyle McCord.
I did. Dak. Yeah. It was me. I like to instigate this. This is.
I did not bring up Kyle McCord.
It's entertaining to me.
And Dak was so pro Will Howard that whole day and in the moment.
Oh my! That's a lie.
In the heat of everything, I did say Kyle McCord would have beat that team, and this is the reason why is because Will Howard still should have beat that team. So yeah, I'm gonna say Kyle McCord would have beat that team. What I really meant is that I think Kyle McCord is a lot better than Will Howard, and we've all said it tonight. Obviously, Kyle McCord wasn't the problem.
Right.
I do think Ohio State is in a lot better position to win that game with Kyle McCord. Does Ryan Day still make the same dumbass play calls? Yeah.
It was him,
right? But could Kyle McCord make a few more throws than Will Howard made that game? Is Kyle McCord throwing a pick within 5 yards of their own end zone? I don't know.
Okay.
Yes. So that actually kind of just proves my point. You have a strong love for Kyle McCord. And I said on Saturday, no household should spend as much time talking about Kyle McCord as we do. I went to bed thinking about Kyle McCord and woke up thinking about him. But I will say, he did lead college football in passing this year. He had the most attempts by far, but still he completed like 67% of them. He had the bad 5-pick game, but Syracuse went 9-3. He had a great interview, a great press conference after where he said everything goes full circle.
Yeah.
And so although I want to clarify, I have in no way been a Will Howard supporter this entire season or even Saturday. I'll clarify that, but I have disrespected Kyle McCord.
You have said Will Howard is better than Kyle McCord pretty much.
Enough. Okay. Yes.
Anyway, you have said that.
Yeah. You've said that since the jump, bro. You've said that since the beginning.
Okay, sure, maybe.
Yeah, all right. So,
but
Kate,
today's
that's
Dax Dog,
close.
I'm gonna give it. This is the last remaining bit of rent that he will have in my head. He's getting Dax
until he
Dog.
comes on the show.
Until Colin McCord comes on, which he honestly should come on the show, because I'm being dead serious. Kyle McCord is brought up 3-4 times a week. I don't think
most
Syracuse
in the state of Texas in this of any household, I would feel very confident about that.
Very confident.
Maybe not New York or Ohio, but I think probably here. Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle McCord comes up. Yes,
the whole South. Anyone. Yeah, the whole South.
Yeah, I'll take everything west of Mississippi. Yeah, I agree.
Same. And so this is a nice way to put a bow on it. I think we were both correct in this situation. You're right. Kyle McCord is better than what I thought. Would he be the answer for Ohio State? No, I still don't think he would be.
Better than Will Howard.
We can discuss this another time. We only have a few minutes left.
So you won the battle but lost the war, kind of thing.
Yes. You
lost. That is.
Bet you lost, but you really did kind of win this. Won the battle, lost.
A point was made through this.
A point was made, and I have to wear that one. I made my bed, my Kyle McCord bed, and I'm gonna have to lie in it now. You were right. He had himself a fine season. Still won the Syracuse bet. And so I feel okay with that.
You rode with Fran Brown and Syracuse fully. So that's right.
Yes.
You won the battle of Kyle McCord, lost the war of Q's.
Lost the war of Q's.
This is a way I'm putting a bow on it. No more Kyle McCord talk. There's no need for him to ever come up again. He had a great season. I'm giving him credit here. Stu, you were right. Kyle McCord is a decent quarterback. And so he's going to be Dax Dog. He's going to be Dax Dog of the week is Kyle McCord. Woo! There you go.
Who would have thought?
I would like to say,
and you know what I would like to call this moment for me? Everything comes full circle.
Oh, we've been waiting for that. Damn.
Wow.
He was waiting all day for that.
Full circle.
I was ready for that one, bro. I'm not gonna lie. As soon as you texted that Kyle McCord was your Dax Dog, I was like, all right, I'm saying it.
Preloaded.
I just wish people listening, mainly I guess just my mom. I wish.
Yeah, Lisa, we love you.
I wish they could have just seen how much he actually was talked about this week, because it's an absurd amount.
It's awesome. It was awesome.
Oh yeah.
And then quickly, Dax
girlfriend was over while we got into it about Will Howard, Kyle McCord, and she literally asked me, she was like, "Yeah, you're really passionate out there." And I was like,
"You're passionate about Kyle, aren't you?"
It's a big deal.
Yeah, that was funny. Dax Dead Dog or Dax Dog, R.I.P. Ryan Day. See you later, buddy. That one's it. And I'd like to retract my former dead dog, Brian Kelly. He's not dead. He's doing all right.
Oh, man. Yeah. All right. And ever since our last episode aired, Bryce Underwood today signed as Michigan's quarterback. Just let that be known.
We can talk about that next episode. LSU had a fantastic class. We just got DJ Pickett.
We got a volleyball
Solomon Thomas flipped.
Gotta go.
Yeah, you're behind Michigan now, though.
We should do Bryce Underwood.
Shout out to the meeting of the minds. We got a volleyball game to go to. Been a great episode 3. We will be back. We'll talk a little Lions, Green Bay. I know that's a big game coming up.
We could go live tomorrow, maybe.
Maybe live. Hey, stay tuned. We appreciate you all. And all right, see ya.
Go Tigers.